Good morning, or good afternoon, rather, to everyone. I'm just getting set up. Yeah, trial is on a 30-minute delay, so we have a few minutes, but I hope everybody is well rested. I am. I slept well.
What case is this for?
Hey, Couch, how are you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep, back at it. We are. Yes, we are. We're going to do the morning session. After it cut off yesterday, I was telling you guys what happened after they cut it off. And lo and behold, they actually did find a clip, and I put it out there. Yeah, I know. It's just, well, we do have Couch over there in Twitch there, Jen. It's just the three of us so far, you know. There's no problem there. I've got a little square of it so I can see a bot there, Couch. So don't worry. I do appreciate your efforts though. We did get another Twitch subscriber yesterday. We did get a couple more YouTubers too. Like, I don't usually look at the numbers, but somebody contacted me last night and made me look. We hit over 8,000 yesterday. I was pleased. Is it cold there, Jean? How about by you, Rocky Couch? I'm surprised at how cold it is here today. It is it's in the low 40s, and I'm a bit chilly. Welcome there, Mouse. How you doing? Oops. Okay. What I want to do is make sure I have everything up. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is we'll sit with the courtroom ready. Let's just get ready. As you can still hear me. Okay, there'll be a little bit of background noise from the feed, but we're outside of the Maricopa County Superior Courtroom right now. For anyone who didn't catch it, I think I'm going to go grab that very short video from last night. The judge had something to say to Lori Vallow. They definitely had a couple of words after the cameras went down. And let me just grab that video real quick. I had put it in, for those of you in my Discord, I had put it in the Vallow Daybell room. It was, I knew what they had said because I did tell you all. Hello, Grace. Good to see you. And here's the short video link. It's short. Well, the judge did address the fact that Lori continues to make these little statements while she's doing her questioning of witnesses, either saying stuff like, "Oh, I didn't know that," or "That's what I recall," or just adding her own little thing to it. And the judge told her that that's akin to testifying, and she kind of needs to stop that. Okay. It also came to light that some subpoenas went out yesterday for some detectives and another private citizen, and they didn't have any contact information. They didn't know who to call, so of course they contacted the prosecution because those numbers are all public. Hi, Katie, welcome. So there was that, and they were told to call the investigator. So she did get some of the good news is that some of her subpoenas actually got issued yesterday. She'd been waiting months, and that's been an issue. But then again, the prosecution's just hearing about these, and she's hearing about it actually from the witnesses because they're contacting that office because that's the only person they can. And there was some confusion because they were going to show up today. but they don't have to because they're going to be for the defense. So she will. It, what we can glean from that bit of information is that Lori Vallow Daybell does intend to put witnesses on the stand in her defense. She does have some type of a defense case besides, the defense doesn't even have to offer one. It's up to the state to prove the case, but the defense has the opportunity, and it looks like she's going to take it. They were arguing yesterday about her expert witness Dworkin, the cell phone data man, and based on what the judge says, I don't think he's letting that come in. The man has no new information, and he doesn't even have a ulterior, not ulterior, no, alternate is what I mean, an alternate theory to any of the evidence that he is reviewing. Besides the fact that, 5 years later, when he gets the extraction, because what he did is he went to the actual phone and he did his own extraction. Now, 5 years later, it doesn't take a genius to realize that the data, the apps that we use for these extractions in the way that it's done could be updated and changed. And so there was a difference. And that's what the expert said. And the judge read it, and Lori is presenting it one way, and the judge says, that's not even how I interpret your own expert's affidavit. Like, there's nothing new here. So there's no, like, there's based on the weight of the information and the fact that it's all late, it's probably not coming in. And he had told her that at the last two hearings, that it would depend on whether there was anything new or whether the weight of the information was worth bringing in her defense. And she's not going to just bring somebody in just to have somebody when there's nothing new there. She didn't like that very much. She's getting a little snarky, I think. She was in the last couple of hearings. And I don't think she's able to use her charms the way she's used to. And it does appear that judges who are in a position of authority are kind of immune to those charms, to tell you the truth. Good morning, good afternoon, Charlie and Teresa. Good to see you. No problem. Just glad to have you pull us up there, Teresa. I hope you get to catch it later. We're only going to be on until lunch. And then the second half, just to let everybody know, will be recorded. It will still appear on the channel and in the playlist, okay, for everybody, so that you can keep up to date. But it will be the how I call the edited version. All of the long pauses out, the sidebars will be minimized, to make it shorter and easier to catch up. It'll be very easy to catch up with this afternoon's. If you even wait until tomorrow morning to listen to it, you'll have plenty of time, because I think it will be cut back quite a bit. Of course, I say that, and Murphy's Law, like they'll have no sidebars. It'll go straight through. They'll do 20 witnesses or something, I do believe we're on our sixth witness. I think we're going to have our sixth witness now. They still have quite a bit of the prosecution case to go by. We've still got on the list, there's still quite a few officers. We've seen both from the fire department that were listed, both Kent Keller and Scott Cowden. And we have seen three. We've seen Erwin Werbicki and Robert Creighton and Daniel Coons from the Chandler Police Department from the state's witness list. We've got quite a few more listed on as far as the Chandler Police Department, but it doesn't, just because they're on the list doesn't mean they're going to get called in. It could be rebuttal there. We have from the Office of the Inspector General, from the life insurance, from the Office of the medical examiner still to testify, and the Department of Public Safety And then there are 5 civilians on the list, and that would be Christina Atwood, which was Lori's previous friend, Adam Cox, her brother, Nancy Jo Hancock, the last person to see Charles alive the night before, that he was on a date with, that they had a conversation. What is this name? I'm trying to read this name here. Uh, Sandra Sharp. I'm not sure who that is. Oh no, Serena Sharp, sorry. And Kay Woodcock, of course, JJ's grandmother and Charles's sister. Yep. How long is this trial estimated to take? Very good question. I do believe that they estimated 6 weeks. I don't think it's going to be that long. The judge is thinking possibly 4. He knows that the prosecution will not be finished this week, probably won't finish till Monday or Tuesday. And I doubt that Lori will go that long either. I really don't even see it going 4 weeks. They've been moving pretty quickly. It depends on, the witnesses. I do think, and this is my estimation, is that when they get to the civilian witnesses, those witnesses that Lori actually has personal issue with, the crosses will be much longer. And it'll be a little more back and forth. The trial will slow down a bit. I do also think when she starts to present her case that she's going to be pretty detailed. She cannot testify in a narrative, although she has said she has plenty to say, which is why she wants to be pro se. She wants her side out there. So I think she's going to take the roundabout way and be testifying through the questions. And, of course, if you're representing yourself, that's what you're going to do, right? Of course. Court is taking a little longer to start today than usual. Just gonna make sure that I am. Oh, well, I'm gonna make sure that I am up to date. It does not look like I am. Okay, so here we go. I had to refresh because court's ready to start there. All right, court did start a couple of minutes ago. Hold on. Here we go. They're going to be coming in a second. We are a couple of minutes behind. Oh, no, this is the, Oh, I have to get a different feed already. Okay, hold on. My apologies, everyone. Got it. They still haven't started, though. They're just starting now. Yes. Okay. Here we go. Let's get that all nice and big. Sorry about that, guys. I'm glad that I caught it. It was running behind, but they still are not in the courtroom yet. I did hear some noise. I heard Lori's voice. There could have been a delay. Remember, they have to bring her in and everything. And
All right, let's bring the jury in.
all right, they're bringing the jury in now. So there we go. Looks like I can tech a little bit today, huh? Oh, come on, cameraman, stop that. Stop that. Okay, so it does look like, Oh, and Rocket Couch asked, he said, since we didn't get to see that bit yesterday, can we count that on today's bingo? Of course you can. The little bit of the video that I dropped, absolutely. Anything that we said in there, since we're talking about it, absolutely, Couch, you can count that on your bingo card should you like to. And that would, I mean, is there anything on the bingo card about the judge educating?
Cross-examination of this witness.
Okay. And we're going to continue the cross-examination here. But they muted.
Detective Coons, I know we didn't really establish yesterday. I know that you're retired. Is that okay if I call you Detective Coons, or would you prefer something else?
Detective is fine.
Okay, thank you. Detective Coons, yesterday you testified that no stippling was found as a result of the shot on my husband's chest. Is that correct?
To my knowledge, none was found.
Okay. So would it surprise you if the medical examiner expressed in his defense interview that there was stippling found in that shot?
Would it surprise me that he had found it? Not necessarily based on the information.
Okay. Would it surprise you if the medical examiner expressed that the shooter would have had to be 2 to 4 feet away for that stippling to be present?
And this is from your interview or from the report?
From the interview.
Okay. No, that actually would still be consistent with my observations at the scene.
Okay, great. If someone very muscular like my husband were 2 to 4 feet away from you holding up a bat, would you consider that a threat?
And I would object to speculation, relevance.
Your Honor, I'm asking for his opinion as a professional and as a firearms expert.
He's not, okay.
Ooh.
That goes to the ultimate
hold on.
decision.
The objection is sustained and it calls for a legal conclusion.
It calls for a legal conclusion?
Yes, move on.
Out of the box.
Were you present, Detective, when my husband was shot?
No, ma'am.
Is there a video recording of it?
To my knowledge, no.
So is your opinion then an educated guess about what really happened?
It's based on known facts.
Okay. Were you aware, Detective, that my husband and my brother were very good friends?
No, ma'am, I didn't know the relationship.
Did you know that they hung out and played golf together?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Your Honor, I'm going somewhere with this.
Oh,
My follow-up question will explain.
I guess you can answer if you knew that they played golf.
I did not know.
In all of your investigation of my life, you never came across this information?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Are you familiar with my husband's wishes for his funeral?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Did you learn in your investigation that he named my brother Alex as one of his 5 best friends?
And I'm going to object again to relevance.
Sustained.
Did you read the reports in this case?
I did not read all of the reports in this case. No, I've read mine and I've authored mine, but I have not read the other reports.
None of the other reports except for your own?
That's correct.
Okay. Detective, are you familiar with the follow-up report you wrote dated July 29th, 2019?
You're going to have to be a little bit more specific.
Did you review your reports in preparation for your testimony here today?
Yes, but I have not memorized the dates of when I made a report entry.
Okay. Would you like to see it refresh your recollection?
That would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does that look like a true and correct copy of your report, Detective?
I believe it is.
And those Bates pages run from what to what, please?
They're obscured in the footnotes of it, but it looks like it's 126 through 131.
Okay. And on the last page of your report, on Bates page 131, you explain what a shored wound is.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you read that underlined portion?
I would object to hearsay to reading it.
Sustained. You can ask him to explain what a shored wound is.
Okay. Can you explain to us what the shored wound is that you explained in your report?
Yes, a shored wound would be a wound created as an exit wound where the projectile is exiting the body and the body is either up against a firm surface or firm material like spandex type thing. That's how it's been explained to me.
Okay. That's fair. You said held in place by tight clothing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you in fact, and it says in your report, did you in fact collect my husband's clothing?
Yes.
Okay. And you took the clothing, it says, to the property storage facility. Is that correct?
Yes, it went to a drying cage.
Okay. Detective, are you familiar with bamboo clothing?
I can't say that I am.
Okay. Were you aware that on July 29th, 2019, my husband was wearing a $200 bamboo workout shirt?
Objection to relevance.
He can answer if he knows.
I have no idea what the cost is.
Are you aware that bamboo is a heavy-duty fabric, not to rip or tear except under extreme conditions?
I've not done any research into bamboo fabric.
Okay. So could this fabric of his shirt have caused the wound to be short?
It could have been a contributor, but it would not have been in this particular case.
Why so?
The body would have been on the floor where the bullet defect was in the floor.
So you just said in your report earlier that a shored wound could be caused by tight clothing. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you're saying that could not have happened in this case?
The shirt did not appear to be tight clothing to me.
Well, it was made of bamboo, as we established, right? Is that correct?
I am taking your word for it. I do not know that it's a bamboo shirt.
Okay. And you did not investigate that at all?
No, ma'am.
But you had the shirt in your possession?
It was seized as evidence, yes.
And you never checked what kind of fabric it was?
No, ma'am.
And you never checked if that could be a possibility?
No, ma'am.
And you knew that spandex was kind of a material that could make that kind of shored mark that you just mentioned, correct?
It would have to be super tight clothing.
Super tight clothing?
Yes.
Or a fabric that's even stronger than the spandex that you mentioned?
The strength of the fabric, I don't believe, has a huge play in it unless it is form-fitting and compressing the skin, much like a hard surface or firm surface would.
Okay. But what you said in your report was that held in place by tight clothing could cause a shored wound.
As has been explained to me, yes.
Okay. Detective, in your report, you mention let's see. So it is possible that his shirt could have caused the wound and not the floor.
I'm going to object to asked and answered.
I'll let him answer.
I don't know if it's possible or not for that particular shirt to have caused a shored wound.
Because you did not do any investigation about the shirt.
Because the shirt did not appear to be form-fitting and very tight.
Did it cover over the shoulder where the wound kit was?
It was a full t-shirt at the time.
That's what I'm saying. So was the t-shirt where the wound was on his back, where the bullet exited, was his shirt covering that part of his body?
Certainly.
Okay. Was there a hole in the shirt at that location?
Yes, ma'am.
How big was the hole?
The size of the bullet?
So small. Small.
Fabric stretches and contracts. So it was a bullet size.
Okay. So when you had this shirt and you saw the bullet hole, it was after the shirt had been cut off by the firefighters. Is that correct?
It hadn't been cut off. It had been cut down the middle, down the front,
So just the front was cut. So the back was intact?
minus the defects that we have seen from the bullet and exits, yes.
Okay. So you were able to measure that. Do you have a measurement for those bullet holes in the shirt?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So it is possible that his shirt could have caused the wound, the shored wound.
Object again that we've asked and answered this 3 times
Sustained.
now.
Okay, so is it possible that any shirt could have caused a shored wound in any kind of,
And I'm going to object to foundation as to any overly broad.
as an expert?
Let me rule on the objection.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'll sustain the objection.
As an expert and in your professional opinion, could that fabric of his shirt that he was wearing that day caused a shored wound?
Again, I'm going to object to asked and answered multiple times.
Sustain.
In the last paragraph of your report, Detective, you indicate that you were able to confirm your suspicion of the body position at the scene. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you mean by suspicion?
Well, at the time, I couldn't see through his body to see the full trajectories, so I did need the information from the autopsy. The trajectory rods helped with that, as well as the doctor's statements. All of that combined did give me the 2 different bullet paths.
Okay. And then, can you tell me, Detective, what happened to my husband's shirt? Do you know where it is now?
It is in evidence, as far as I'm aware.
And it's, when you looked at it, where was it?
The last I physically saw that shirt was when I handed it off to a crime scene tech to put into a drying cage with the instructions, once it was dry, to have it moved into the property facility.
And so did you see it after it was in the property facility?
No, ma'am, I have not.
So you saw it before it was dried, is that correct?
While it was wet from the medical examiner's office, yes.
And that's when you examined it?
I had seen it at the scene as well.
And then, did you ever examine it?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you saw it twice.
That's fair.
Okay. So you didn't test it for anything?
I did not.
Did anyone test it for anything?
I
that
do
you're
not
aware
know.
of? That you're aware of?
I do not know.
So you're not aware of it?
Correct. I do not know if anybody else tested it.
Okay. Was the wood floor tested for any fragments of the projectile?
It was actually seized, so it was not tested.
And what does seized mean?
We cut it out of the floor and kept it.
Right, and then was it tested after it was seized?
No, ma'am.
So the wood floor plank that was taken from my residence was never tested for any fragments of the projectile?
The projectile was intact, minus a deformity to it.
Okay. But there wasn't any reason, are you saying there was no reason to test it?
There had been no implication or indication that there was a request for it to be tested.
And you wouldn't do that to see if the projectile actually hit the floor?
No, ma'am. All the other circumstances and information that led up to that decision to seize the floor everything appeared that it was going to be related to the actual bullet that passed through your husband's body and struck the floor.
Wouldn't testing the floor actually be the easiest way to be sure that the bullet hit the floor?
Not necessarily would it leave anything behind. Like I said, the bullet was a full metal jacket. It was still intact. There had been a significant amount of blood that had pooled in it. I do not know if there would be residue left behind in it for testing.
Fair. Okay. Was the projectile tested for any marks from the floor?
No, ma'am.
Were you aware that this was a rental house that we lived in?
I believe I'd heard that.
Okay. Were you aware that we had only lived there for about 3 weeks prior to this incident?
I knew it was a short time period, but I did not know the actual duration.
Did you know that? You know that by the time you wrote this report, right?
I don't recall knowing the exact time frame that you had lived there.
Okay. So the defect in the floor of the rental house that we lived in could have already been there before this incident. Is that correct?
Not in my opinion, no.
But it could have.
An objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Sustained.
So of all the divots that we saw yesterday in the pictures on the floor, it could not have been there beforehand?
And again, asked and answered.
I'll let him answer. Go ahead.
The divots I believe you're referring to were extremely smaller than the actual defect, which was still relatively fresh and not sealed like the other divots were.
Okay, can we see? These were previously published, so we can use them, right?
Yeah.
Can we look at
Just
this?
refer to the exhibit number, please.
Okay. Just put it on. Detective, can you see that? I can't see that very well from there. So in Exhibit 57, Detective,
I'm looking.
this, where my pin is pointing,
Yes, ma'am.
that's the defect that you're referring to where the bullet struck. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And these defects were already previously at the residence. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And do they look that much significantly different than that to you?
Yes, they do.
What do you think the measurement difference in that is, in your professional opinion?
There is no scale on this photograph. It would be difficult for me to give you an estimate.
So in your estimation, this defect is much larger than this defect. Is that correct?
The second defect you're pointing to appears to be wood grain indentations. The other is an actual defect in the board.
Okay. Thank you. But this defect, this piece of wood that was cut out, was not tested. Is that correct?
Again, asked and answered.
Technically correct, but I'll let him answer.
Correct. To my knowledge, it was not tested.
Thank you. So do you know, Detective, for a fact, that the defect on my wood floor was caused by the second bullet?
And again, I'm going to object to asked and answered.
Sustained.
When we looked at the projectiles yesterday, the one from the baseboard clearly had white paint on it from the baseboard. Is that correct?
Baseboard or the drywall, perhaps.
Okay, but we all saw the white paint. Is that correct?
There was a white marking on it.
Was that tested for the white paint?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
There was no decision made to have it tested.
Because it was logical that it was in the baseboard where the baseboard was painted white, right?
It was very clear that it had passed through your husband and lodged in the baseboard. And upon recovery, there was no deformation to it, indicating that it was a straight-on impact or relatively close, so that it embedded itself into the baseboard.
Correct. So it wasn't tested because it really didn't need to be, in your opinion.
Correct.
Okay, that's fair. Next, we looked at the projectile that, according to you, made the defect in my wood floor. Is that correct?
I don't understand your question. Next, we look at it, but I don't see anything.
Oh, we saw the projectile. Can I find out what exhibit that was?
Your paralegal has all those photographs.
Can we use the actual
Yeah.
exhibit?
She can approach and
Okay.
Are you looking for the actual projectile?
Yes.
I believe it's a smaller. Do you want her to hand that to the witness?
Is that 239? Okay. Detective, for the record, you're looking at exhibit 239, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that the projectile that we are talking about that you claimed made the divot in my wood floor?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So was that projectile was not tested, is that correct?
Your Honor,
Is that what
I'm
you
going to
said?
object to asked and answered at least 3 times.
Sustained.
Does that projectile look pristine to you?
No, ma'am. As I've previously testified, it is slightly deformed.
What side is it deformed on? What part about it is deformed?
The back end, the heel area is compressed a little bit so that it's now oval as opposed to circular.
And that would indicate what?
That would indicate that as the bullet struck something firm on its side, it compressed, and then it continued on moving.
Okay. So that's what you mean by a shored wound. It hit up against something. Is that correct?
The terminology as it's been described to me is it's the skin is against a firm surface. So in this particular case, the floor would be the firm surface. So as it's entering or exiting your husband and starting to try to enter the floor is forcing the bullet to kind of ricochet, but the body's still keeping it in place. So it's now deforming a little bit, and it's still expending its energy to escape from underneath the body.
Okay. And if my husband was in fact laying on the floor, how did it get out from under his body? Wouldn't it have gotten stuck under? That's my question.
Just what?
Could you explain that to me?
I think I just did. So the bullet is a full metal jacket. It still has its energy. Until it starts striking things to cause resistance to it, to slow it down, it's going to expend its energy at a normal rate. I think I just lost the mic, I'm not sure.
No, it's on.
Okay. When it starts striking firm objects, then it'll start bleeding the energy away. And in this particular case, as it's exiting your husband's body, it's impacting bone, it's impacting the flesh that's compressed against the floor, and it's impacting the floor now. So there is going to be a lot of resistance against that. Now, where it exited, it's still not free to just fly like the one that went through his chest and out the back. It's still semi-trapped between your husband's body and the floor, so that's going to cause even more energy drain until it comes to rest.
And how far away from my husband's shoulder was that bullet fragment found? The projectile, I guess.
When it was found, I don't know the exact measurement away from it. I would say a foot or more, maybe.
Okay, so that's what you're talking about the energy. It still had energy to keep moving. Is that correct?
It had enough to escape from being under the body.
Okay. So because of what you saw at the scene, and you state in your report that it was your suspicion that that's what had happened, was that my husband was supine on the floor, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So was it your suspicion from the start of this investigation that led you to not confirm any other alternative?
What other alternative, ma'am? My job was to collect the information and put it together with the information that was being collected in the interviews. The information from the interviews did not completely match everything that I had learned at the scene.
Okay, let's see. You did not test the wood floor, is that correct?
I'm going to object again to asked and answered multiple times.
Sustained.
You did not test the projectile, is that correct?
I'm going to again object to asked and answered multiple times, and I'm going to move to start striking every question.
Sustained.
You did not investigate my husband's shirt.
And object again to asked and answered multiple times.
Sustained.
Did you call Aloha Carolina and ask them about the fabric of my husband's shirt?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that you made an assumption early on and only investigated the things that supported that assumption?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Remember in your report where you stated that the bullet strike to the abdomen had an upward trajectory, passing through the left lung before exiting near the left shoulder?
Yes.
Okay. Could that upward trajectory have been caused by my husband falling backwards and the bullet hitting the abdomen and going upwards and exiting his shoulder as he hit the floor?
No, not in my opinion.
Okay. Detective Coons, on July 11th, 2019, were you at the Chandler Police Department during my interview?
No, ma'am.
Were you there that morning when we were brought into the Chandler Police Department at all?
No, ma'am. I was at the scene.
Okay. I thought you didn't get to the scene until 11:45.
No, that was when we actually obtained the search warrant. It was about a little after 11:45. I was
Okay.
already at the scene shortly after 9 o'clock.
Okay. Did you see the injury on the back of Alex's head with your own eyes?
I did not take a close look at it. I saw the paper towel that he was holding against his head.
But you did not see the wound itself?
No.
Okay. Are you aware if Alex's hands were swabbed for gunshot residue?
There would have been no reason to swab for gunshot residue.
Why is that?
He had already stated that he was the shooter.
He had stated it?
To my knowledge, that's how the information was provided to me.
Okay. Are you aware if my hands were swabbed for gunshot residue?
I am not.
Okay. Are you aware if my daughter's hands were swabbed for gunshot residue?
I am not.
Do you know for a fact that Alex shot the gun in question?
Based on the information provided, that is what I have, yes.
Do you know that for a fact?
Just with the information that's been provided, I can't tell you one way or another if there's another shooter because the evidence does not show that there was.
Okay. So all you really know for sure, after your 5 years of investigation, is that my husband was shot 2 times, 1 by that particular gun, 2 with those particular bullets, at my residence, and that he passed away as a result of that. Would that be correct?
Oversimplified, there is a lot more information that is available to us for that.
Is that correct? Is that question correct?
Those are some known facts, yes, but that is not all we know.
So you can't really tell me for sure who shot him, can you?
Well, as we've established, I was not present when it happened. I can only go with the facts of what people have said and what the evidence shows.
Okay. You don't really know what time he was shot, do you?
Actually, no, I don't.
Okay. You don't really know if he was falling back or lying supine on the floor, do you?
Yes, I do.
You don't really know what time my husband actually passed away, do you?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Thank you. No more questions.
All right, redirect.
Your Honor, I still have stuff that she
You
gave.
can pass those to, let's have your paralegal get the report that you gave him, but I'll take exhibit 239, is it? Do you need any of the photos? They're over there.
Yes, thank you. All right, Detective, I know we started yesterday, so I'm going to kind of go back through a few different areas, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
In terms of just understanding your role working with crime scene techs, you had testified yesterday that they are often the ones who actually pick up the item of evidence and put it in a bag, correct?
Frequently, yes.
Are you there observing them as they do that?
Yes.
You're not just wandering around outside drinking a coffee while they're processing the house?
No, ma'am.
So every item that we've brought in is something that you observed, you were there as they were documented and collected?
Correct.
And some of them, like the gun, you actually had to make safe before it could be collected.
Actually, Detective Duncan is the one that made it safe, but I was present for those things.
Yeah. You were asked about the backyard being searched. When you have other people searching the house, and I think you'd said it was a collaborative event, if someone observes something, do they bring it to your attention as the scene agent?
Yes, if I'm asking somebody to do a search for me to help out with a larger area, it is their responsibility to bring it forward to me if they discover something that they think is important.
And if they see something, you would then go out and observe it yourself?
Yes.
We had talked about the gun yesterday and the ejection port. see if this will be visible here. What do we see right here?
So that is the ejection port.
So when we're talking about how this, how a semi-automatic gun works, and you were talking about the ejection to the right, is that in this gun indicated by the opening where that ejection port is, the side that it's on of the gun?
The opening is part of how it'll indicate where it ejects. Also the extractor, which is a small lever behind the ejection port, is what grabs the casing to pull it out. And internally, there's going to be an ejector that it's usually a small pinpoint that kicks it, and the springs basically flip it out.
So all of that was what made you understand which way the casings would have ejected out of this gun.
Yes,
Now, you told us that that every gun can be slightly different if it's more upward, more outward, and you are unaware for this gun what that ejection would be like.
correct.
I'm going to go back to your diagram. This is Exhibit 5. Are you able to, by looking at the measurements that you took, give us an estimate of the distance between those two casings that you have listed here as 9 and 10?
My estimation would be a couple feet.
And I guess, would your measurements, did you take measurements of where those were?
I took measurements from the reference points to triangulate it, but I did not measure distance between each object to the other objects.
So the measurements that we see, I'm going to take it out of here. On the second page of your report, are those triangulations that you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So are we able to extrapolate from this any distance between those two, or we are left with what you recall at this point?
You're left with what I recall, but I also, on my diagram, I put a reference line or dimension line. It's near the north-south indicator, and that helps somebody who's looking at it get an idea of what a measurement might be in the diagram.
Okay. And is that this line up here?
Correct.
There was a lot of questions about where the shooter might have been at the time when this shooting occurred. Start with 19 while I look for a different perspective, but in this house, you've talked about a rounded wall. Can you tell us where you're talking about for that? And I'm gonna put up 14. So on 14, what is this rounded wall that you're talking about when you're referring to the location or potential location, let me say the general location of the shooter?
So the rounded wall is at the south end of the main room that we're in, where the body's at. And it's also directly across from the hallway that runs to the 3 bedrooms and the hall bathroom.
So is that this wall that we see in Exhibit 14 right here?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, when we are talking about a gun being fired and casings ejecting, as someone who has fired guns before, have you fired them on where the casings are landing on a hard surface?
Yes,
Do casings bounce and roll?
they do.
So is the location of these casings do they tell us exactly where they initially landed when they ejected?
No,
This is just where they ended up or stopped.
it's where we found them.
They could have been kicked at some point as well.
Yes.
Okay. When you are looking at this scene, are you relying upon these physical items of evidence to reach your opinion?
They would be some of it, yes.
And then are you relying on your training and experience in conjunction with observing the physical evidence as well as the injuries to Charles?
That would also be good pieces of the puzzle.
And are you able to give us the exact location of this shooter?
No, ma'am.
Are you giving us a general area of the shooter?
Yes, ma'am.
And for the shot that goes through Charles's chest and out his back, where is the general area that you are saying the shooter was located?
The shooter would have been located somewhere in the opening to where the kitchen and the hallway is, in close proximity to the rounded corner as well.
Okay, I put up exhibit 16 here. So somewhere in this area?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you were asked a lot about the autopsy report and stippling. You were provided with a copy of it by the defendant, correct?
It was never provided to me.
You weren't allowed to look at a copy of it?
The report that she gave me was my report from the channel report system, not the medical examiner.
Have you ever looked at the autopsy report?
I have.
Did you, in regards to the injury to Charles's chest, the entrance wound, ever see the word stippling used there?
No, that was not in the report.
When you were reading that, did you interpret the way that Dr. Baumgartner wrote that to mean abrasions related to the actual entrance wound of the gunshot?
That's how I interpreted it.
Does that mean that Dr. Baumgartner didn't mean stippling?
I don't know medical jargon so well, so he could have very well meant it with how he wrote it, but to me, it did not come across that way.
Okay. And when you were at the autopsy, you don't recall him ever telling you about the stippling?
Not in that word, no.
But you were there at the autopsy,
Yes,
correct?
I was.
Are you in the room with him, like right there next to him?
No, we are actually mandated to stay in the, I guess it's the viewing area of that particular location.
There's a window between you and he's in a different room?
Yes.
So you also were asked about Dr. Baumgartner saying in a defense interview that because of this, what you've now been told is stippling around that gunshot wound to the chest, that the shooter or the gun being used could have been 2 to 4 or so feet away. Do you recall being told that?
Yes, I do.
All right. I have a little thing here, 24 inches. So 2 feet is 24 inches.
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't know if I can approach or if I have to have my,
Go ahead.
thank you. So when we're talking about 2 feet, saying from the wound on his chest,
The indicator would be from the muzzle to the chest.
so that distance is 2 feet.
Yes.
Understanding that additional information that the defendant provided you, that Dr. Baumgartner advised during a defense interview, does that alter your opinion in any way as to where the shooter would have been, the general location of the shooter for this shot to his chest?
No, it actually makes sense with the completed trajectory that ended up in the baseboard.
So those being 2 feet away from Charles Vallow when the end of the gun to his chest did not seem so far away that, or so close that it didn't fit in with your opinion.
Yeah, 2 to 4 feet would be certainly consistent with what I saw.
So he's 2 to 4 feet away from him in this area.
Away from that area, yes. Yeah.
I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the floor itself that you observed underneath Charles's shoulder after he was removed, okay? I'm putting up Exhibit 244. That's the actual piece of wood. And Your Honor, can I actually publish this to the jury and have them
Yes.
look at it? Thank you. If I can have just all of them look at that, and then I'll ask a couple questions.
To be honest, that was an excellent move by the prosecutor to let them actually see the piece of wood that Lori had the picture of. Better than a photo. They'll be able to see that that was not an actual defect. It was a little indent in the grain, and that the bullet made an actual defect. Very excellent move. I like this prosecutor.
So Detective, in looking at the floor itself, you told us that you looked through the whole floor in that room to see if you found any similar types of defects, correct?
Correct.
Did you find other defects on the floor, just period?
There are other imperfections.
You had testified on cross that there was something about the freshness of the defect itself. Were you able to sort of feel a difference in the wood grain, where that indentation is that we see in Exhibit 59 and in the actual piece 244, than you observed in other defects across the floor?
Yes, it did appear to be different than the other imperfections or defects.
Was there anything about the defect itself that indicated a path of travel?
Yes, there is a kind of a linear mark to it, and you'll also see at the in this particular photograph of it, there's like a slight semicircular edge as it exits towards the top right.
And was there anything about that pattern itself, both the depth the freshness, the location of it, that made you feel it was consistent with a bullet strike?
All of those factors help make it consistent with it, not to mention the location of the projectile that was in close proximity to this defect.
So let's talk a little bit about those projectiles. I'm putting Exhibit 40 up here. Do we see the projectile over here next to Charles Vallow?
Yes.
Now, were you aware when you were given this scene that fire had already been there?
Yes, I was.
Pretty obvious because of all the medical devices, right?
They left a tail.
And if you were advised that fire has testified that they rolled Mr. Vallow onto his right side towards the west, would that have then exposed his left shoulder there?
It should have.
Do you know whether or not that bullet was ever moved at all personally?
Well, I have no idea what the condition of that bullet was until I physically saw it.
Okay. Now, the location of this bullet here on the floor next to Charles, why is that significant in determining whether or not Charles was upright or down?
Well, it's significant because for this particular shot, he would have basically been vulnerable, if you will.
Let me ask it this way. Why is that significant in making your opinion that he was on the floor versus upright for the shot to the abdomen?
Oh, okay. The angle of entry into the abdomen and exit is not consistent with him being upright or any other way other than lying on the floor. The defect is where the defect is, and the bullet, as demonstrated with the chest shot, had enough energy to exit. And had he been any other direction, I would not have expected the defect to be right underneath the body.
So if someone is standing and someone's on the floor shooting upward, where would the bullet go?
Well, if he's standing and the shooter is horizontal, then the bullet would go towards the ceiling or high wall area.
So this idea that it would end up on the floor below him and right next to him, would that fit with that scenario?
Of him standing, no.
When you're looking at the bullets and the location of them in this scene, we had that other projectile, and I'm going to put 20 up here, that went into the baseboard on the east side of the room, correct?
Yes.
When you talk about someone being standing upward and the bullet being slowed, can you explain to us how this bullet landing over here and embedding itself in that baseboard is consistent with Charles being standing upright when he was shot?
It fits the dimension of the room. It fits the wound path through the chest and exiting the back, because the exit is lower than the entry. So there's already a downward motion to it. I know that the bullet struck the spine prior to exiting, so that would bleed even some more energy from it and potentially cause it to start dropping as well.
So the wound itself was slightly downward?
Yes.
And then given the distance away from Charles, this would be, in your mind, consistent with having gone through him in that chest to back exit downward angle?
Correct.
So that really only left one other bullet in the room to explain the other injury,
Yes, ma'am.
and that's the one that was right next to him.
Correct.
You were asked whether or not you made assumptions about the shooting, how it occurred. When you got to the scene, you were given a basic briefing, right?
Yes.
How do you start looking at a scene when you're observing the evidence there?
I do an overall assessment of the scene. I apply the initial information that's given to me, and I progress from there.
Are you, if the physical evidence is what it is, are you trying to find a new way to make that work?
No, I let the evidence speak for itself.
So here, the physical evidence is one bullet is in the baseboard, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so that had to come from somewhere that makes sense for that trajectory, right?
Yes.
And then the other bullet is right next to Charles.
Correct.
And so again, you're looking at all the physical evidence and how that fits together.
Yes.
And in this case, in your opinion, the shot through Charles's chest that exited his back, did the evidence support to you that he was standing up for this shot?
Yes.
And in your opinion, looking at all the physical evidence from the casings, the projectile, the injuries to Charles, was that consistent with the shooter? And now that you know the stippling, with the shooter being still in that sort of kitchen hallway-ish area when he fired that shot at Charles?
Yes.
And in your opinion, again, looking at the casings, the injuries to Charles, the location of the projectile, as well as the shored wound and the lack of stippling, does that support your opinion that Charles was on the ground when he was shot in the abdomen?
Yes, it does.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Are there any questions for this witness from the jury? I'm not seeing any. You can step down. They can call its next witness.
If I may go get her.
Well, that was quite interesting. I do like the way the prosecutor just brings it back home with the actual facts of the case and what the actual witness was testifying to, because Vallow Daybell has a way of confusing the jury with all of this stuff that the witness is actually testifying to. It's actually, in my humble opinion, Vallow Daybell testifying to what her theory is. You know, which defense does, but it's like how she's doing it. She's like actually testifying, and she really gets annoyed when they don't agree with her. Like the snark is on point today on all sides, judge and prosecutor too. They're not having it. It's very tense, and we're only on day 3. I agree, Jean. That was exhausting. Exhausting. Vallow Daybell, watching her proceed is very frustrating. I can see the mistakes that she's making, and if she would just stop trying to testify, try to elicit the answer that she wants in a different way instead of confronting. Oh, a personal witness.
All right, come on up. You're going to stand right here and be sworn in.
Okay, buckle up, because if we get cross before we go to lunch, it's going to be something. I can imagine her demeanor is going to be even worse with civilians that she knows. But first, the state. Treena
All right,
K.
you're going to come around the court reporter, have a seat up here to my left.
Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, my name's Nancy Jo Hancock.
And do you go by Nancy Jo?
I do.
How old are you?
61.
And do you currently work?
I'm self-employed
Do you live here in Arizona?
in Mesa, yes.
You born and raised here?
Born and raised here.
Do you have your own children?
5,
Do you have grandchildren?
15,
Busy person.
yes.
I'm going to direct you to a person by the name of Charles Vallow. Did you ever meet a person by that name?
I did.
How did you meet him?
I'm divorced. I was on an LDS dating site, and when new members join, it tells you this is someone new. And he sent me a message, and we began messaging.
Initially, did you just talk to him do you talk through the website? How does that work?
Through the website at first, and then he asked for my phone number, and then we were texting and talking on the phone as well.
Do you recall approximately when you met him?
It was early July, I believe the 3rd.
And so you said you guys would text. Was this,
A lot.
what's a lot to you?
Charles was a texter and a talker, and he was good at banter, and there were hundreds of texts by the time I had met him.
You said you talked on the phone with him as well?
For hours.
Did you have a conversation with him once that lasted almost 3 hours?
Probably more than one, yes.
When you met Charles in early July, did you know he was still married?
He told me he was in the process of a divorce.
Okay. Did you know whether or not he was living with his wife at that time?
He was in Houston. His soon-to-be ex-wife was here. When he came to Arizona, he was meeting a realtor to find a place to live when he was here as well.
So when you're first meeting him, he's out of state, but he has a connection here to Arizona, so you keep talking to him?
Correct.
As you guys are talking and texting, did you eventually have enough interest that you decided you wanted to meet him?
Yeah.
Did you know what Charles did for a living?
Life insurance and something with money. I try not to have that be the focus when I'm getting to know somebody, so that I get to know them for them and not what they do for a living.
Okay, so you didn't really care too much about
No.
what his job was?
No.
Did you know he traveled a lot for work?
Yes.
As you and Charles are talking and texting, just sort of yes or no, can you tell us, did he get very detailed about his life with you?
Yes.
Did you know if Charles had children?
Yes.
Just yes or no again, did you talk to him about his wife specifically?
A lot.
Did he mention his wife by name?
Yes.
What did you believe his wife's name was?
Lori Vallow?
Have you ever met Lori Vallow?
No.
Again, just sort of yes or no. Did Charles talk to you about
Your Honor.
why?
Objection, leading,
I heard the question.
objection.
I haven't heard the question yet. Go ahead.
So just yes or no. Did Charles talk to you about why he
Leading
was
is yes or no.
No, leading is a question that suggests the answer, so she can answer yes or no.
So again, just yes or no. Did Charles talk to you about why he was separated from his wife?
Yes.
Based upon your discussions, how long did you think there had been issues going on between Charles and his wife?
For several months, but more intensely since the beginning of that year was 2019. So since the beginning of that year.
You told us that Charles talked to you let me ask you, yes or no, did he talk to you in great detail about his relationship with Lori Vallow?
Yes,
You told us you met on an LDS dating site, right?
correct.
So are you a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
I am.
Was there anything that you were hearing that you thought were outside of your beliefs?
A lot of things.
As Charles was telling you these things about his wife, can you tell us his demeanor? What his voice was like, what his attitude was like as he's talking about that?
I just remember thinking that he was strangely calm and still kind towards Lori, even through what they were going through.
You told us you were aware he had a child. Did you know where that child lived, who the child lived with?
Yes,
Who was that?
he was living with Lori at that time.
You have.
He had older children as well, but the young one was living with Lori.
You have these conversations with Charles about his wife and these things that to you seem outside the LDS religion. Why do you keep talking to him?
Well, he was very charming and kind and funny and very clever, really good banter. A lot of craziness going on around him, but he seemed pretty awesome.
Now, you guys had just known each other for a few days. Did you think you and Charles were exclusive?
Heavens no.
So would you be surprised to learn that he was talking to other people on other websites?
Not at all.
Did he in fact share some of that with you?
He did. He shared some pictures of some women that had sent him that were quite scanty, and then proceeded to ask him for money, and thought how funny that was, that that's what people were doing online.
Did you eventually meet Charles in person?
I did.
And how many times did you get to meet him in person?
Just once.
What day was that?
He was flying in from Houston, and we had arranged to go to dinner that night. His plane was delayed, and so I met him that night on the 10th of July.
July 10th, was that 2019?
Correct.
And was that then here in Arizona that you met?
It was.
You said that you had original plans to meet and they got pushed back?
Yeah, his plane was delayed, so we met a little later than we were supposed to.
Where did you guys meet? What did you do?
At the Keg restaurant by Santan Mall, and we ate, but we talked until the restaurant closed. We were the last people there.
So you shut the place down?
We did. I finally looked around and I realized that we were the only ones there, and told them we probably should leave. And then we went outside and talked by my truck for another 45 minutes or so.
Based upon everything you had heard, was Charles coming in to see you, or was there some other reason he was in Arizona?
Charles was ecstatic to see JJ. He was coming to see JJ, so excited to take him to school the next morning. He was also coming to look for a place to live. He had an appointment to meet a realtor friend after he had taken JJ to school. And then he was also supposed to meet with Lori's brother, Adam.
So you and Charles had this evening on the 10th. Were you going to meet again?
Yeah, we were supposed to meet up in the late afternoon after he got through with the things that I just said.
So did you have a set time for the next
No.
day? Can you describe Charles? Was he a fit man? What was his size?
Very fit and into physical fitness. And while we were talking, I know that he was swimming. I got to go to the gym, and yeah, very, very fit, strong.
When you were talking with Charles on July 10th, that evening, let me ask first, do you recall about what time you ended up meeting him?
It was around 7. I got there first, and but it was right around 7, between 7 and 7:15, I'd say.
And do you recall about how long you guys were together until you finally
Well, the
left?
restaurant closed at 10, and they were closed and no one else was there. So it was after that we left. And then, like I said, we stood by my truck and talked for another half hour, 45 minutes after that.
So a later evening.
Yes.
Can you tell us, you said that you understood he was going to go see his son. What was his demeanor about with regards to JJ and seeing his son?
Like a kid on Christmas morning, he was very excited to see JJ.
You had talked about his demeanor when he would talk about his wife. On that evening or ever, did you ever hear him swear or use derogatory names or anything like that towards Lori Vallow?
I was surprised with the details that he was describing to me, how kindly he still spoke about Lori, and his hope was that she would be a great mom for JJ.
Did that stand out to you?
A lot.
Why?
Most men that you date are not nearly so kind about their ex and describe them in more derogatory ways and don't speak so kindly. And I remember just thinking how odd, in a good way, it was that he was not speaking in a derogatory way about Lori.
So that made an impression on you.
It did.
During any of your conversations with Charles, did you ever learn that he had a life insurance policy?
I did.
As you are talking, did Charles really just tell you a lot about his life?
A lot about his life, yes.
Were you almost surprised at the amount of detail of his life that you learned?
Yeah.
Did you understand whether or not any changes had been made by Charles to the life insurance policy?
He told me that he had changed his beneficiary to his sister Kay, and as he was proceeding to tell me some of the things that were going on, I suggested to him that maybe he should let Lori know that he had changed the beneficiary on his life insurance to Kay.
Why would you tell him that?
Because of the things that he was describing to me and his concerns for his safety and the thought that money would come into play.
Do you recall where you were when you made that suggestion to Charles?
We were sitting at dinner at the Keg.
So this is on July 10th.
Correct.
What was his demeanor like when you told him that?
He kind of chuckled and said that he probably should. Said that was a good idea.
You told us that you don't know Lori Vallow, correct?
I do not.
Would it be fair to say that you sort of have no beef in this case?
I have no beef in this case.
Do you know any of Charles's family back then?
No.
Any of Lori Vallow's family back then?
No.
When you, I guess, left Charles after talking in the parking lot that evening, you told us that you had sort of unformalized plans to see Charles the next day.
Correct.
Was there like someone would call someone, or how was that supposed to go?
He just said that he needed to do the things that I said, to have a morning with JJ, find a place to live, meet up with Lori's brother Adam, and then we would meet up somewhere for a late lunch or something.
Did you ever try to reach him on July 11th of 2019?
I did.
Did you try texting him ever?
Around 11-ish in the morning, I texted him and asked how his morning with JJ had been.
Did you get a response back?
I did not.
Did you try calling him?
A couple hours later, I called once, yes.
Did you get a call back?
I did not.
What were you thinking when you didn't hear from Charles after you spent this night?
I was puzzled how I had misread what I had thought been a good date so wrong that he would not even take the courtesy to reply. Wondered why, but just figured that was what his decision was.
So on July 11th, when you're not hearing back from Charles, did you know that he had been shot and killed?
No.
Did you later learn that Charles had been killed from seeing something on TV?
I was watching TV in December, I believe, and his picture came on the screen, and it said that he was dead.
When you learned that in December, that he had been killed, did you learn when that had happened? Did you try to investigate?
I did. They said the date, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's right about when I went out with him. And so I went to my phone and thought I probably had deleted our text conversations. If I'm not dating someone and I text, I usually delete the thread, but I had not. And I had the conversations, and then I realized that I was with him until 10:45 that night and that he died at 7:30-ish the next morning.
And did you later then talk with the police in April of 2020 to tell them what you knew about this case?
I did.
Thank you. The state has no other questions.
Cross.
Nancy Joe, right?
Correct.
And we have not met before,
We have
correct?
not.
Okay. And you stated that your husband, or my husband, told you that he was going through a divorce. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And did you have any way to verify that?
No, I didn't try to verify that.
Okay. So did it surprise you later to find out that we were not in the process of a divorce?
Charles was in the process of a divorce.
He was not in the process of a divorce. Did it surprise you to find that out? You've seen it all on TV where we're not getting divorced.
Okay.
So on the website that you met him, did he say he was divorced?
I'm not certain.
Would you have gone on a date with him if he would have said he was married?
If I would have realized how married he still was, maybe not. But I just met for dinner. I wasn't sleeping with him or anything.
Do you go on dates with married men?
I'm going to
Not
object
naturally?
argumentative. I'm going to also object under 611 for harassment.
All right. I'll sustain the objection.
Your Honor, do I not have a right to cross-examine this witness for what she has already testified to?
You can cross-examine her about what she's testified to.
So you did go on a date with a married man,
I went on a date with Charles.
but you did not know he was married.
I knew his divorce was not final.
His divorce was not started.
Okay.
So in your text messages, you asked Charles if he was a good kisser. Is that correct?
Maybe, sure.
Did he answer that text message?
I'm
gonna
sure.
object to
I'm sure he did.
relevance. Again, 611 harassment.
I'll sustain the objection for relevance and hearsay.
So are you trying to tell me and this jury that you went on one date with my husband And he told you all the details of our lives.
I'm telling you the truth, and that's what I know.
So you spent your whole date getting to know each other, talking about me.
Don't flatter yourself. No, we did not spend the whole time talking about you.
You knew a lot about me, right?
I knew what I've testified to.
What else did you talk about on your date?
Lots of things.
Like what, for instance?
Life, kids, the church, lots of things.
Okay. Did he tell you about anything about our other 4 children?
Yes,
So you knew that we did have 5 children as well?
I did.
Okay. Did he talk to you about my daughter, Tylee?
He did.
Did he talk about his relationship with her?
I don't recall that.
Did he talk about the contention in his relationship with my daughter, Tylee?
I don't recall that.
I'm sure you don't.
And I'm going to object to comments by the defendant made after questions testifying.
Let's sustain the objection.
On your date, you talked about my husband was a life insurance salesman. Is that correct?
I knew he did something with money and insurance, but I really didn't know the details of what he did for work. Like I said, I don't ask the details about what someone does for work when I'm trying to get to know someone.
But you knew that he sold life insurance. You stated that.
I believe that I had a vague understanding that he did something with insurance.
And then he brought that up again at dinner.
No, we didn't talk about his work at dinner.
I thought you said you did talk about, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said you did talk about that he changed the life insurance policy at dinner.
Well, you were asking me if we talked about that he sold insurance, which that didn't happen. But yes, he did tell me that he changed the beneficiary of his life insurance policy at dinner.
Did he tell you how much his life insurance policy was for?
Yes, he did.
What did he say?
$1 million.
Did he tell you how much my life insurance policy was for?
I do not recall.
You don't recall?
We didn't talk about you very much in that vein.
When did you talk to him about me very much then? If it wasn't at dinner, was it in your text messages?
We were talking about what he was going through in the process of separating from you, not about what your life insurance policy was worth. And we talked about you on the phone, and when I say you, meaning what he was doing as he was going through this separation.
So let me understand. You were dating some different men on this website, right? From the websites.
Sure.
Would you say it was common for men to be talking so much about their supposed ex-wives during their conversations with a potential?
It's actually very common.
Really?
Really.
Interesting.
And again, Your Honor, I'm
All right.
going to object to the defendant making comments after her questions. and
I'm
moving
sorry, Your
straight.
Honor. I won't do that again.
All right, please stop.
I'll just ask the questions.
Thank you.
So there were some text messages between you and my husband after the dinner on July 10th. Is that correct?
Correct.
What time would those text messages have occurred?
After dinner,
What time?
10:45-ish.
10:45 to what?
I'm not certain, ma'am. After dinner.
10:45 to midnight, maybe?
I just told you I don't know. Maybe.
What did you discuss in those text messages?
And I'm going to object to relevance again. If there's a specific area.
Sustain.
You testified a minute ago that Charles told you a lot of things about his wife. You didn't say ex-wife, but you said wife. Is that correct?
Okay, sure.
What were a lot of things?
The things that I've testified to.
Can you be more specific?
Am I allowed to do a narrative then?
Let's go on sidebar.
Well, I do believe that LVD is going to get a little bit of an education with the judge on like, no, like you can't have this tone. You can't actually testify with your questions. But I like this witness. She knows that the not yet divorced woman is going to come after her. And she's like, yeah, sure. If you say so. And I think the jury's going to think Lori looks a little petty here and pissed off. Now, because it's very, I have to ask the chat for the gentlemen that are in the chat. If you saw the widow acting like this, would you feel that this was out of love and concern for the dead husband? Or would you see it for what it is? Because, like, I see it as very, very petty. And her just, just, oh my God, just like, listen, we weren't divorced yet, you hussy. Even though Lori was the one actually telling Charles she wanted the divorce. But then when she couldn't sustain her lifestyle, that's when they bought the house in Arizona. And she decided to get back with him. Now, that's all been public knowledge. So. I don't know. I don't think it's coming off very good, but then again, I'm a woman and I can admit to being a little bit biased about this. I think she's got a lot of nerve because I know
This
too
shouldn't
much.
take too much longer. I'll have the jury wait for a few minutes. We'll see if we can finish this witness as we go into the lunch hour. But I'll excuse the jury for just a few minutes because we're having technical difficulty with the court reporter being able to hear.
Okay, so. Okay, that's good news that they're going to try to finish up with this witness before lunch, because I wouldn't want to have to leave you all hanging until my video comes out late tonight for the afternoon, because I do tend on closing this up at lunch. I do want to do the true crime in legal update tonight. I do think Jay's going to be joining me. That will be very nice. We're going to be talking about 2 state of New York cases, Luigi Mangione and Rex Harriman.
All right, please be seated. The jury is no longer present. The last question the defendant asked of the witness was along the lines of, what things did you discuss about me, meaning the defendant? Is that correct?
That's what
Yes.
I recall, Your Honor.
Are you sure you wanted to answer that question? Because you're opening up a really big door.
He's trying to save her butt
If
here.
you want her to answer the question, I'll have her answer the question.
How am I supposed to know what a lot of things are?
All right, if you want her to answer the question and there's no objection from the state, we'll
No
bring
objection.
the jury back in and have her answer the question.
Oh my gosh, she's going to be able
Right.
to say that
Bring her
Charles thought that Lori was going to kill him and that she threatened his life because that's what he told the police the week before. Oh, Lori, you just, oh boy. Oh. Y'all heard the judge try to save her, right? He definitely doesn't want this tossed. He definitely does not want this tossed. He had to make sure that she knew what she was getting into here, and she's not thinking clearly. We're seeing we're seeing the real Lori Vallow Daybell, like whoopsie. And this is just someone she doesn't even know. How is she gonna be when Kay Woodcock or her friend Christina Atwood get on the stand, or her brother Adam Cox, people she knows? She's going to be very confrontational, I believe. In my humble opinion. What do I know? I'm not a lawyer, but this was a mistake from the defense. And I could just see, I can imagine there was a lot of flinching going on over at the defense table for the counsel, the attorneys, her advisory attorneys. I would imagine even the investigator was like flinching over this. Yep. I'd be in the gallery saying fight, fight, fight. I just saw that. Like, I'm sorry. I was not paying attention to the chat. I was like Yes, Jean, I do believe Jay will be joining me tonight. Oh my gosh. Where did the camera go? Oh! What the heck is that? I guess they're going to do like an announcement until they bring the jury in because. Okay, wait. All right, here we go.
Say that. Let's
We're
do
going back.
sidebar.
Okay, I would love that.
Oh, they're going to talk about that. Okay. All right. The feed will come back up in a minute. Sorry about that. Okay. They're bringing in the jury. So I don't understand. Did he say they were breaking for lunch or were they going to bring the jury back and finish up? I'm going to have to go look. Mm. Okay, I have to go look now because I'm very confused. I thought he said they were going to finish with this witness before they went to lunch, but the feed I'm using just went to lunch. Yeah, they killed the feed. They said they were going to lunch, but I'm going to look for another feed. There are plenty of feeds. We might be a minute behind, but I'm going to finish this. Let's see. Nope, the other feed went to lunch too. And I'm still looking. I can't believe they all went to lunch. Okay, I think I'm going to use trial TV. Hold on. He said bringing the jury back. Let me just make sure that they actually are going to be using it. I do hope their trial TV doesn't mind me using the feed if I do end up using it, but their feed is quiet right now as far as the jury coming back. But if that jury comes back, I'm definitely gonna. Oh wait, let me hold on. Nope. They're also waiting to see if the jury comes back and see what happens. I'm sorry, guys, but it's best to just wait a few minutes to figure it out. Or then to try to pull something off. All of the feeds wait to like a break as if it was lunch and they're talking. And, just like I'm talking. But I did just I did just hear him say though, let's bring the jury back right before they went out. I'm gonna give it a few minutes. I'm sure that there is somebody in the courtroom that can do it. Hold on. I'm looking at the guy who's in the courtroom from Phoenix. Let's just see. Yes, everybody's just reporting what we heard. The judge, she wanted the sidebar. The judge asked her, "Are you sure you want her to answer?" Because, we know that in what we have heard of the actual affidavits of this witness, the stuff that has been going back and forth, Charles Vallow did lay out to his state that Lori's beliefs were getting a little crazy, that he was concerned for her, he feared for his life, that she actually threatened to kill him and accused him of being possessed by this Ned demon. Like that's going to be coming in if she continues this way. His being fear for his life, his worrying about the kids, this is all going to be wow. Oh, I mean, the judge said, "Are you sure?" And she's not clearly seeing what could actually happen here. And it says that the live court is on a short break on the feed. Okay, so they did go on lunch, and then the rest of this is going to be on the false reason. All right. I'll tell you what. I want to hear the rest of this. Like, I'm going to have to do it in the record. I'm sorry, guys. Like, I don't want to go too late because they're going to be at lunch until 4:30. You know what? We might be able, you know what? I'm going to put music on. I'm going to stay live until after this witness. I want to hear what this witness has to say. Are you guys okay with that? Like, and then we'll bring the feedback up after lunch. Think so? Yeah. Okay. So we will actually put some music on for the lunch break, and then we're definitely going to bring this back up. I will be back here a little before 4:30 Eastern Standard Time, and hopefully we can get this witness done before I go to True Crime and Legal Update at 7 o'clock. I am absolutely chomping at the bit to hear what this witness has to say after all of that, because I think that she had a good date with Charles, and they were being honest with each other, and she thinks he's a good guy, and he's like telling her all the problems of his marriage and what Lori was going through, and from what we've already seen in the media that was going on, it's going to. Of course, though, we could be getting very excited. Here's the other side of the coin. We could be getting very excited for no reason at all. Because if she actually talks to her advisory council or anyone while on the lunch break, she could probably decline to ask the question. She may. Thank you very much, Jane. You're so sweet. Thank you. Here for as long as you're presenting. I do want to take a little bit of break though. I need some coffee. I need to go to the bathroom and like all of that. So are you guys okay with a little bit of music? Um, we did Undercover Vampire yesterday by Chris Zabiskie. I think that we will do I Am a Man Who Will Be There by Chris Zabiskie today, and it will loop, and then I will be back. I'm breaking up that? Oh, sorry about that. I think it's because I was trying to do too much at once here. How about that, Mrs. Is the sound bad for anybody else? Sheila's saying that she can't understand anything I'm saying. Okay. Could you understand me before, Jasper? Yeah, I mean, I saw nothing on the meter, so it could just be internet. It could be the internet. It could be YouTube. I saw nothing on the controls for the meters as far as the PC, the mic, or any of that, the audio feed. All right. So I'll just repeat. And for those of you that did hear, I'm sorry. But for those of you that were having audio issues, I will just say again that I am going to take a short break. I'm going to be back here about 4:20 because we're going to go. They should be back at 4:30 live with the feed. And we are going to finish this witness, and then I'll end the morning session, so to speak. And the rest of it will be on a recording this evening that'll be coming out and give you time to catch up before we go live tomorrow. I do plan on doing the full day tomorrow. The prosecution is now into the meat of this case. The ME's still got to be presented, the medical examiner. They're still going to have the insurance agent. They got quite a few civilian witnesses. Her friend, her brother, her in-law, Kay Woodcock, JJ's grandmother, Charles' sister, the actual recipient of the life insurance. I'm very curious to see her demeanor with the actual witnesses she knows, because this is just someone she's never met before. And man, was that petty and very, I agree with the prosecution. She was hostile. That was harassment. The way those questions were coming out, that was borderline harassment there. Okay, I'm glad the sound is doing better. Okay. And I thank you all for being here. Please stretch a little bit. I hope you'll be back, at 4:20 Eastern Standard. That is like 35 minutes from now. Okay. And I'm going to put some music on, and we will see you all shortly. This is Chris Zabriskie. I am a man who will handle it. I wonder if Lori's going to handle it. Oh, well, here we go. I'll see you all soon. Okay, well, I am back. They are still on break. We don't have the feed yet. There was a 30-minute delay, of course. But I did get a lot of questions while I was on break, so I thought I would cover a few of them um, while we're listening here, waiting for the feed. I do have the feed going on in the background so that I can see when they come back up, and we'll put it right up as soon as they start. because I am very curious. Number one, they were like, do you really think that Lori Vallow is going to continue with this? You really think she's going to go down this path of questioning? And I'm like, oh boy. Oh boy. Am I breaking up again? Hmm. Is anybody else hearing it besides Sheil? Or is anybody else there to tell me? Hmm. Okay, well, I can reset. I think I will reset. I'll be right back. Hmm. Okay, okay, can you give me a how the sound is now? I've done a whole big reset. I'm going to bring up the feed again. Um we didn't miss anything. They still don't have everything up. So they're still waiting for them to come up. Okay, good. I'm glad I did the reset then while they still weren't live. Thank you, Shill, for letting me know. Thank you, Maggie, and welcome. Yeah. So, what was we talking about? Oh, Lori going down this path for conversation. A lot can come in. Number one, she just attacked this woman for going on a date with a married man. But is she forgetting that Charles knew about the affair and that he may have told her, and that could come out? And also all of this belief about him being possessed, in him being in fear for his life, in him talking to the police, all that came out in the opening, we know, in the body cam of Charles, but having another person say it, that he was really concerned about it, would add even more credibility to the theory the prosecution has in regards to the crime. Um, okay. So so I think there's a lot of different things that could come in. I'm sorry, I got a lot of interference in my ear there. That's why I just stopped dead. Like it was a little crazy from the feed. Yeah. Yes, it is. Well, YouTube can do things too. So that some chill. We often have audio stuff, but the good news is I actually am doing better with dealing with tech problems on the fly. So there we go. All right. So thank you very much for the super sticker. That your really big cup of coffee, Shill. I really appreciate the support. They put it in the coffee fund or in the documents fund, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Um, so some of the other questions I got, of course, why would she go down this path? She was very reactionary, had a very physical and emotional response to this witness. It was very evident. And that kind of gives me a clue of what the rest of the cross examinations are going to be alike with some of the witnesses she actually knows and has personal things to say. Remember, Lori's main reason for wanting to defend herself, as she has stated in multiple interviews, is that she has something to say that the defense attorneys wouldn't say for her. And I do believe that it will be more like this cross-examination, which was borderline harassing. Now, that was one of the questions I was asked. Can the prosecution object to the harassment of the witness, as they have been? Yes, they can. And the judge can even intervene and tell the witness she does not have to answer an aggressive question that's not relevant, even without an objection. I do think the judge is trying to see what she's getting at and let her, have a fair trial. Remember, the judge does not want to be overturned. He wants to make sure she has every opportunity. One of the reasons they did the sidebar was to make sure she wanted to go down this avenue. They can all see the risk here. I do believe the prosecution is ready for it. I'm sure they knew it was a possibility. It was definitely a possibility that she would get like this. All right, so some more interesting questions. Someone asked me about the zap vest. They were like, how long does the zap vest go off if she gets aggressive and leaves the podium, heads towards the jury, a witness, anyone? It would be 8 seconds of zap. And they said, well, would the judge, stop the trial for the day? Possibility, but mostly he would excuse the jury till they got her back to where she needed to be. She would be admonished on not moving around the courtroom. I guess it would depend on what actually happens. But the reason that they have that shock vest is so nothing happens. If she even steps out of line at all, she'll get zapped. And it's pretty strong voltage. It's 8 seconds. It's pretty long considering, And so, that was one question. I thought that was interesting. Somebody wanted to know about that. And they also did say that they were looking forward to her getting zapped if she kept up acting out the way she was. And I was like, wow, wow. I agree, Jen. The prosecution should object vehemently to any of the witnesses being harassed in such a manner. She was quite aggressive. And it's not unusual for defenses to be aggressive. We've seen other cases where the defense was absolutely just very aggressive, actually trying to tear apart a witness. We've seen it before. So there's a fine line. The judge will be the balance for that, but I don't think he's going to tolerate her acting out. And her response was quite emotional and actual physical. They were saying in the courtroom they could see her physically reacting to this witness. And I do believe this witness, talking about how wonderful Charles was and what a great date it was, and kind of enjoyed it a little bit that she was getting under her skin, to be honest. I do. I agree, Maggie. I think this line of questioning is very bad for Lori Vallow Daybell, and that she could be causing herself a great problem there. Yeah. They do have extra Jin says that the zap should be just long enough for the law enforcement officers to put hands on her. And that's correct. They do have officers in there. There is one responsible for the button. And I think that, they'd be watching for it. Yeah, they definitely would. I think once it comes in, if he felt threatened, I think they will, Katie. I do believe in the beginning they did talk about it, and I've seen that video everywhere. We'll see if it gets entered. I think Lori may have opened the door for it if this witness gets to testify about that being stated. So we'll see. One of the other questions I got was very interesting about the hearsay. Is actually what this witness says, Charles says, hearsay, not if Lori opens the door to it. If she just randomly was saying, I mean, it is personal knowledge. She was on the date. She can't speak for Charles, but it's just she's talking about her understanding of what was saying, it's coming in. But if Lori opens the door to other things that Charles said, and lets her do a narrative, she can say whatever. She doesn't have to wait for a question or be led in any way. She wanted to know all the things that Charles said. And that allows the witness to do a narrative of all the things that she recalls that Charles told her about Lori and their relationship. And that's pretty dangerous. And one of the other things I got was in regards to serving her sentence. What happens if Lori is convicted here in Arizona of this murder? This murder happened in 2019. Prior to the convictions that she got in Idaho, those murders happened after. But basically, it usually goes to the prior conviction because they don't go by the date of the crime. They go by the process. And since that conviction in Idaho happened first. However, there have been cases where the later crime conviction state has petitioned the other state to have them served there. And it may be for the victims' families and for justice for the victim, and to make it seem more palatable to them. However, in this case, what's it going to matter? She gets convicted with another life sentence or whatever that she gets. They have the opportunity to run them at the same time or have her serve one and then go back to Idaho to serve the other. Either way, she's not getting out of jail unless she wins her appeal and it gets overturned. Chances are, if she is convicted here and her appeal gets overturned in Idaho, she will still be in prison, you know. But that's basically like kind of how it goes. Idaho would actually have first rights to keep her there. You know, the Arizona sentence is symbolic, if anything, because she's, you know, unless she gets her appeal overturned, which I seriously doubt. Uh, you know, those 3 life sentences are going to stand in Idaho. Actually having a conviction here is for justice for Charles Vallow and for his family and for his friends, you know. The state that tried and convicted her first has first rights to custody of Lori Vallow Daybell. So she would more than likely be returned to Idaho. Unless, of course, Arizona requests for other arrangements and that would become an agreement, you know. They would have to work something out, you know. But basically, because it's a life sentence, it's kind of moot. Um, Transfers between states require agreements under the Interstate Corrections Compact, and both states have to agree to the whole thing completely. So unless Idaho agrees, there's nothing Arizona can do. Arizona would need to actually start the process by formally asking to have her serve her sentence in Arizona. Idaho could agree and release her after her trial for her sentence to serve there, you know. Well, you know, there's no pre-agreement. There's been no official statement on anything because first of all, we don't even have a conviction in Arizona. So we'll have to address that after during sentencing, you know. In similar sentences, in similar situations that I have seen in other serial killer cases, multiple state cases for murder and etc., the second, third, and fourth states that actually processed it convicted the defendant, those sentences were served on paper only. They were just added on top of where they were originally convicted. They served their time in their original first convicted state, and everything else just piled on top. And it was kind of like a paper serving. I mean, you can't add more to a life sentence than life. I mean, you can on paper, but you can't make them serve more than their life, you know? And basically, they didn't move the inmate. They only moved the inmate for their trials, and then they went back. So that's the history, but there is the possibility they could work out an agreement. So that answers that question. Okay. I agree, Jean. The witness in the narrative mode would be bad. Yes, Miss Hancock in narrative mode would be very bad for Lori Daybell. No, you didn't. They haven't come back yet. I haven't seen. They're not back yet. I'm waiting for them to come up. Remember, they're on a 30-minute delay. Yep. Yep. This judge is doing everything he can to avoid an appeal. Good on him. Yes, most judges, they hate to be appealed. Yeah, they do. And I appreciate this judge because he's really trying to balance it. I mean, Lori is ridiculous in some instances. Well, he's trying to be fair and he's trying to not educate her on the law because he's not allowed to. He cannot give her advice. He cannot educate her seriously on the law. That's for her advisory council. What he can he's trying to let her know when she gets in hot water and asking her if that's really what she wants to do. And that is what he needs to do to keep it out of appeal, to make sure she clearly states that this is what she wants to do. Especially when it came to the hearings, asking her over and over again if she wanted a continuance because she was not prepared. She's still not prepared with her witnesses. It's evident. He's done everything he can. That witness could open the door to that video. Yes, I think Katie, you're right. You're talking about the video of the body cam officer when Charles Vallow was talking about his life being threatened and he was in fear for his life and the craziness that was going on at the time. Yep. Now, there was also some questions about jury. We did lose 2 alternates, based to hardship, okay? And then yesterday, we did have an incident with one of the, impaneled jurists was on his phone, and the prosecution talked about that. That, was talked to, but both the defense and the prosecution agreed not to have him dismissed. He did say he was only talking to his daughter. He wasn't Googling to answer questions. The concern was is that they saw him on the phone, and then a very technical medical question was asked by the jury of the witness. And there was concern that perhaps he was Googling information in regards to the case or something he heard in regards to the testimony, which would be a foul. He was admonished to not be on his phone. They can keep their phones with them for breaks and stuff like that, but they're not supposed to look up anything. I don't think that's a good rule, actually. But hey, you can't keep what they're going to do outside of court either. You got to trust that they're behaving, you know? So, mhm. So we are now just waiting for them to come back in. They should be coming back shortly. She has started her cross-examination, but we're on a 30-minute delay. So we are just waiting for them to the feed come as soon as the feed comes up, we will get it up. Lori just started her cross-examination a few minutes ago, so we're about still a few minutes out, but I'm gonna stay until we finish with this witness, and then I'm gonna go to my other live. Um, we need to finish with this witness. Mm, it's, I'm wondering, I seriously doubt I'm trying to look through the socials now, but I seriously doubt that she's gonna start opening the door and let her do a narrative. I'm sure she was advised against it. Mm, okay, let's just look. So remember, the witness that's on the stand is the woman who went on the date the night before with Charles Vallow, met through an LDS dating service. They weren't exclusive. It was the first time they met. They had been talking back and forth a bit. They had a great date according to the testimony, and they talked about a lot. Mm, mm. And I do want to remind you all that the jury, when doing the jury voir dire in the jury questionnaires, they did mention Ty Lee and JJ's name in the questionnaire because they did want to weed out as many as possible that had heard about the prior convictions, the cases, and had a predetermined notion in regards to the case. Because this is in Arizona, they were able to get a panel, a jury that did not know a lot about anything, any of it. Most had not heard about it, okay, and didn't have any prejudicial notions against Lori Vallow. So they do not exactly know about the conviction. The conviction can come in just for credibility if she takes a stand in regards to that she is a felon, but the actual case of what it is, what she was convicted of, may not. Okay. And it will not be admissible because it would be more prejudicial than probative. For us, it matters because we know what Lori Vallow Daybell was convicted of prior. And I saw a lot on the socials, people absolutely disgusted that she brought Ty Lee into this discussion in her opening statements as if she was protecting her and that she fought with Charles and kind of like putting it all on her. And knowing that she is convicted of her murder, it was very distasteful. Knowing that everyone she mentioned in the opening statement was dead. Her brother, Ty Lee, JJ, all of them gone. No one there to collaborate with Lori at all. It's rather convenient for an opening statement. But remember, opening statements aren't evidence, and the jury has to go by the evidence that gets presented. And it's going to be pretty hard for Lori to show anything to back up her version of the story. But then again, that's not her job. The defense doesn't have to do that. All she has to do is put reasonable doubt on the prosecution's case, which she's trying to do very well. She's really trying to go around and poke holes where she can. But this prosecutor, Treena K, is ready for her. Every redirect has actually put the facts and the timeline back together after Lori has questioned the witness. So I'm pretty impressed with the prosecution at this point. And it will seriously weigh on how the jury perceives Lori Vallow Daybell. Because let's just look at it, like play devil's advocate for a second here. She's a widow. She's defending herself. Like she said in her opening, this is a tragedy, not a crime. My husband is dead. They need to hear the rest of the story. They need to hear about the adultery, about Chad Daybell, about her crazy beliefs. Without all of that, she could appear very sympathetic, right? And that story about Ty Lee trying to defend her and the reason that they were having troubles is that Ty Lee and Charles weren't getting along and he's a big aggressive man. Yeah. Remembering that Charles Vallow died a few months before Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife. You know, Lori's already been convicted of conspiracy for murder in that case. Chad Daybell is sitting on death row for the murder of his wife, Ty Lee and JJ. The murders aren't going to come in. The affair may. The affair may. Knowing about the affair would be state of mind for Charles Vallow. But then again, Lori may try to use that as to why Charles Vallow was so aggressive and then why Alex Cox had to shoot him in self-defense. I know, I'm just waiting for this. This is going to be a little bit. I forgot about the 30-minute delay. I would have taken a little bit of a longer break, but I'm just as excited as you all are to actually hear the rest of this testimony. I did love when the witness said, "Don't flatter yourself," to Lori Vallow. Did you guys catch like that part? Like that was, "Don't flatter yourself. We had a great time. We didn't talk all the time about you." Just what he was going through. I do agree, Maggie, that Lori has got a skewed sense of reality here. I don't think she's reading the room or seeing the big picture. She's coming at it from a very narrow perspective, her own. Um, in when you are representing yourself as pro se, I guess that's it. Like this is very personal to her. She doesn't care about this trial. She doesn't care about the death of Charles Vallow, the death of the children. She doesn't care about any of that. She cares about how people are perceiving her, and she wants to take back some credibility here. She'll also attack everyone to say you don't know the whole story. This is how it really is. I mean, I really get that vibe. I really think that's what's going on here. Not justice, not innocence. Just, you need to believe me. This is how it's going. I am the chosen. I am doing it. God's not mad at me. You shouldn't be mad at me. Yeah. Yeah, I really I'm thinking, the pushback, all of that, and that witness definitely was not having it with her. She was like, "Yeah, okay," like because she knew that Lori was trying to paint her as like breaking up her marriage or an adulterer, and she's not. I mean, she believes in her religion, so did Charles. They were just casually having a dinner. Yes, she did want to use that. Katie, you're right. That Lori tried to bring that in. Yes, but I don't know if it's coming in. She wanted to use Tylee's interview that was made after Charles was murdered. I don't know if she can. We're still waiting on the 30-minute delay. So do you guys have any other questions about what's been going on? Anything I can research for you or anything that we can discuss? Well, we've got a few minutes to kill. I mean, the questions that came in during the lunch, I was pleased, We already talked about the jurors, the zap this, the custody issue, the harassment, whether or not this witness, the last witness, Nancy Joe Hancock, was hearsay. Um, yeah, I don't know. Oh, mm, hmm, hmm. I'm looking, trying to find her full affidavit. Yep. Good. Exactly, Maggie. It's kind of like pot calling kettle black when Lori had an affair. Well, she's actually going after this witness, you know. But Lori had her affair in thinking he had to be killed as God said it in their religion. I know it's crazy because she's the chosen. She needs to be with Chad so they can bring in the 140. Like they are the leaders. They had been married before. They're not doing anything wrong. Well, Charles going on a date, like that was evil. Yeah. Mm. And here's the thing that really really, really disturbs me. is when they lay out the time of what happened after Charles was shot. Lori taking JJ to school as if nothing happened, taking Tylee to Walmart to get flip-flops, going to Burger King to get something to eat. No one's really upset. I don't think that the altercation happened the way they said it happened. Tylee seemed not that upset. I don't think she saw Charles get shot. We'll see. She did do her interview. Yep, that's what she said in her opening. It's a family tragedy. It's not a murder. And she definitely wants to be portrayed as the victim here. Is that she's been wronged in some way. And I think it's a good strategy to keep referring to Charles as her husband. It makes the jury look at her as the widow and that she did suffer a tragedy at his loss. Although I hope that they will see her actions afterwards. Don't really portray that. I don't, you know what they say, watch what they do, not what they say. That's where you really get a clear picture of what's going on. Yeah. I am very happy that Judge Beressky is doing everything he can to protect us from an overturned verdict. Remember, Alex Cox confessed to shooting Charles Vallow in self-defense. So Lori actually asking, how do you know my brother shot him, was kind of weird, since that's been documented. And, it is a fact. Like, unless you actually saw it yourself, you can't say something's an absolute 100% fact. But I thought that the witness, Daniel Coombs, answered that like pretty cleverly. He said, based on all the information we had in the statement by Alex Cox, that's what we believed. There was no evidence that there was any other shooter, which was a very strong statement. No evidence of any other shooter, meaning there's nothing at the crime scene that would indicate that the story that Alex Cox was telling everyone from the get-go wasn't true. Things fit. The only thing that's not true is like how he shot him or why. The body position, the angles of the bullets, the trajectory, so to speak. Everything that was going on before. The 45-minute delay in calling 911, not doing CPR, contradictions in testimony, getting whacked unconscious with a bat, but there's only a little small bulb and he never really lost consciousness, saying he got hit from behind with the bat by Charles. I do believe maybe he did get hit with that bat. But I think it was in the altercation when Tylee had it. Mm. A mistrial is only going to delay a verdict. It would give her more time to prepare. A mistrial would be beneficial for the defense, Katie. Katie says maybe Lori Vallow is hoping for a mistrial. Exactly. Charlie, I agree. I do not know why she even went there. Maybe because the reasonable doubt, maybe just to make the jury wonder, if the law enforcement had messed up on the case and they really don't know what they're doing. I mean, it's a common defense tactic. But she did look a bit foolish. She knows her brother did confess to it from the very start, from the 911 call. Exactly, Teresa. I seriously doubt. I seriously doubt that she is going. I'm going to bring it up because I think that they might be coming soon, just in case. I got the sound on. Let me know if anything bleeds through. That's a problem, but I don't want to miss a second of this, as I'm sure you do either. But Teresa, it's a very good question. Why would she even want to question this witness? What is her point? She could say a lot more. I do believe we're going to see a different line of questioning when she comes back. I haven't looked at the socials or anything to find out because I wanted to be surprised. Uh, and also, I want to see if my instinct is correct. I like to play this little game with myself. I think during the break, she had enough time to talk with people to realize what could come out and how bad that would be for her. And it was also, make it less likely that we have an appeal or anything to be overturned. Not that the judge didn't do his job by asking her again and again. They had the sidebar. We heard him ask, "Are you sure?" And both of them said, "Fine, no objection." Of course, the prosecution's not going to object to narrative. What are her beliefs? That she's been chosen by Jesus Christ to run a special function of chosen ones, which Chad Daybell, Teresa. And we're back.
With the cross, was there something before we bring the jury in?
Nothing from the state.
All right, we'll bring the jury in.
Okay, bringing the jury in. We're back. We're going to continue cross. Teresa, she was a Latter-day Saint, but she kind of followed Chad Daybell in that crazy offshoot, and it's too much for me to say in a couple of sentences. Let's just say she went off the beaten path to any formalized religion that we know, and she does have some delusions about being chosen to lead forward, and anything she does is done because it is the will of God for her to be chosen. She was previously married to Chad in multiple lives. They're married in the Church of Jesus Christ's eyes at some temple, even while they were married to other people, that they didn't commit adultery in having their affair because it's been sanctioned by their beliefs. It's a hot mess, Teresa. Like I can't there's a lot. I'll tell you what, I'll be more prepared in our next session for break to go over. I will do some research. What does Lori Vallow Daybell actually believe? That should be quite the conversation. There was no residue on the bed, and there was only a slight bump with a little laceration on Alex's head that hardly bled. And Charles was a baseball player and a very strong man. If he hit somebody with a bat, I'm sure it would have been hard.
Miss Hancock, you said that you had seen on TV that my husband had passed away. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you indicated after that you saw my sister-in-law, Kay Woodcock, on that show and you reached out to her. Is that correct?
I didn't indicate that, but that is correct. I reached out to Kay after I saw that Charles had died.
Okay. And did you do that through Facebook or I did social media? Okay. How many times between that first contact and now have you and Kay Woodcock communicated?
I've spoken to her just once. I've texted her here and there regarding. I've texted her here and there about other things. I don't know what I can say.
Okay. How many times have you texted her?
I have no idea.
Like more than 10?
Maybe.
Okay. Have you ever turned over those communications to the state?
No.
Did they ask you for them?
No.
Okay. Did you ever turn over the text conversations you had with my husband to the state?
I was never asked, but I understand that they retrieved them via having them through Charles' phone.
Okay.
I would have had I been asked.
Okay. Did you turn over any other communications that you had with anyone else regarding this case to the state?
I don't believe I've had any other regarding this case to turn over to anybody, so no.
Okay. How many times have you spoken to this prosecutor?
To Ms. Kay,
Yes, to Ms. Kay.
I met with her once in person and one other phone call, and then just text messages about the logistics of being here today.
Okay. How many text messages would you say?
I have no idea.
More than 10?
I know court was running behind, so she had to text me to come at a different time. Probably counting yesterday and today to redo the time, more than 10, yes. Prior than that, probably no.
Okay. Did you have a meeting with her to prepare for this testimony?
I met with her once,
How long was that meeting?
an hour, maybe an hour and a half.
Okay. Was anyone else there?
No,
Have you ever spoken to my brother, Adam?
yes, but only because I ran into him at my grandson's pickleball tournament the other day.
And how did you know that was him?
Because I've seen him on media via the situation surrounding you.
So you initiated a conversation with him?
I just said hi, and he asked me who my grandson was, and I pointed it out, and that was the end of it.
So you introduced yourself to him? To my brother?
I don't know that I introduced myself, but maybe.
How would he know who you were?
I don't know that he knew who I was. I knew who he was.
So you went up and talked to him?
I did talk with him, yes.
He didn't call you over, so you went up and talked to him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you were talking to him, you told him you were who?
I told him that my name was Nancy Jo Hancock.
And did he recognize that name from something?
Can I go back and change how I met your brother? I forgot this until right now. So on a dating app, your brother's picture came up on my dating app. And I sent him a message and said, but he had a different name that he used, not Adam. And so I just sent him a message and said if he was going to use someone else's pictures, he should probably pick someone different than Adam Cox. That's how I met him.
That's how you met my brother, Adam?
Correct.
Do you know what perjury is?
Absolutely.
I object, Your Honor, to
That's a question.
argumentative harassment.
Argumentative.
How long was this conversation that you had with my brother at the pickleball tournament?
A couple of minutes, maybe less.
And how many times had you communicated with him before that?
Only that message on that dating app. Besides that,
One message, one time?
I don't remember. I think he messaged me back, and it didn't continue.
So just the one day then? Maybe several messages in one day?
I might have sent him one other message, but it was just one interaction, and there was nothing further.
And you did not schedule a date with him?
I did not.
Okay. Have you ever spoken to Brandon Boudreau?
Yes.
Okay, when?
He attends the same church that my daughter does, and he happened to be at their house briefly, and I didn't really speak to him. I just knew that that's who he was.
And how did you know who he was?
because my daughter told me,
And who did she say he was
Brandon Bedreau.
in relation to me?
She knows the story and I know the story, so she just had to tell me that his name was Brandon Bedreau.
That he was married to my niece? Is that the information that you had?
I know that he was married to your niece, yes.
Okay. Just the association is all I was asking. And you did speak to him that time?
Well, I don't believe I spoke with him.
Okay. Did you met him? Or
I don't know that I even met him. I was there, he was there with some other people, and I knew that that's who that was.
so you didn't introduce yourself to him?
I did not.
Okay. Did you speak to any other law enforcement besides Ms. K? Not that she's law enforcement, but did you speak to any other law enforcement about this case or be interviewed?
Yes.
Who? Who did you speak with?
Detective Moffett is who interviewed me. I believe that's, I might have left a message for him. I couldn't tell you who with, but the only one that I spoke to was Detective Moffett, Nathan Moffett.
And when was that interview?
In 2020, I believe in April. A long time ago.
Okay. How long was that interview? About?
It was a telephone interview and it lasted 45 minutes, I'd say.
Is that the only law enforcement that you spoke to besides the prosecutor?
Yes.
And how long between that interview with Detective Moffett and your first communications with Ms. K, how much time passed in between there?
With Treena K?
Correct.
I met with her just a month ago, 5 weeks ago, and I gave an interview in 2020, so.
Is that the first communication you had with Ms. K was 5 weeks ago?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Hancock, were you aware at the time of your date that I did not know that my husband was on dating websites and dating women?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Were you informed by him that I knew of the situation of us being separated?
He was under the impression you were having an affair, so him moving on was a natural effect from that.
He told you that?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Just to recap, you said that you met my husband Charles, on July 3rd. Is that correct?
Approximately. Give or take a day.
And you went on a date with him on July 10th.
Correct.
So that was what, 7 days later?
Approximately.
So would it be fair to say that you knew my husband for a week?
Approximately.
Okay. And then you had no contact with Charles after that, correct?
Well, he was dead, so clearly I didn't have contact with him.
Okay. And it wasn't until you saw that he had passed away on the news that you reached out to anyone, is that correct?
Correct. I didn't know he was dead.
And that was about 6 months later? Is that correct?
I believe it was December, so July to December is 5 months, I believe.
Okay. And then you found Charles' sister, Kay Woodcock, my sister-in-law, yes?
Objection asked and answered.
I'm just going over the timeline, Your Honor.
I'll allow it. Go ahead.
So when is the then you're referring to?
So at the 5 months later that you said in December, after that is when you contacted Kay Woodcock?
To express my condolences for her brother passing away and wanted to let her know that I had had dinner with him that last night and how much he loved JJ and how excited he was to see him the next morning. And just,
Thank you, that's enough. I'm just recapping here, and you contacted her through Facebook, is that correct?
And again, asked and answered.
I don't think that was actually asked yet. Overruled, go ahead.
yes, as I said before, I contacted her through Facebook.
Okay. And then sent a few text messages, is that correct?
That is
Yeah.
correct.
This is recap of everything we've already gone through.
And then you said you met with police on April 22nd, 2020, is that correct?
I didn't say April 22nd. I said I believed it was sometime in April.
Okay,
And I didn't meet with them. It was a telephone interview.
okay. And that was around 1 year after my husband passed away, is that correct?
Well, July to April would be 10 months, so.
No more questions, Your Honor.
All right, redirect.
Thank you. You, did you reach out to the police or did the police reach out to you after you learned Charles was
I
dead?
reached out to the police.
Um,
I was surprised, given that if they'd seen his phone, they would see the text communication that we had had and that we had been at dinner that night before he died.
In terms of speaking with Charles's family, Kay Woodcock, did you know her before this?
No.
Had you heard her name through speaking with Charles?
Yes, from Charles. I knew that he had changed his life insurance to his sister Kay, and he talked quite a bit about Kay and his love for her and the relationship with JJ and how that they had adopted JJ.
So you understood the closeness he had with his sister,
Absolutely.
and you said you reached out to pay your condolences.
I did.
When you learned that Charles was dead, were you shocked?
I was watching the TV and it was talking about a case and his picture came on the screen and shocked is an understatement. Yes.
In terms of talking with Kay, have you ever tried to talk to other people to learn about or verify if the stuff that Charles told you is accurate?
No.
Is what you are telling us just what he told you?
What I'm telling you is part of what he told me. There's a lot more.
And did you tell the police all of what he told you? That you could remember at that time, I should say.
I believe, no, I thought I would probably be interviewed again, and it was more an ask-answer format. There was, I remember being surprised that I wasn't interviewed again.
Because Charles had shared so much with you.
Correct.
In terms of the defendant's brother, Adam, did you ever talk with him about the case?
No.
Through media, did you recognize him?
I
as-
recognized him because I'd seen him on reports. And I knew that he was going to be testifying in this hearing.
When did you see him? When was this interaction
Like
at this pickleball?
a week and a half ago.
So a week and a half ago, when you see him at a pickleball tournament with
Mhm.
your grandkid, you say hi to him?
Basically.
You don't talk at all about the case?
We might have talked about that we were testifying. I don't know. No details for sure.
Okay.
Just a general, and then he saw who my grandson was and the end.
So nothing about, hey, I'm going to say this, or Charles
Absolutely,
told me this?
absolutely not.
When you and I met, did we go through your testimony? Or let me get this straight. We go through what you told the police?
Yeah.
Did I indicate to you to just tell the truth,
You told me to tell the truth,
whatever that was?
whatever that was.
You were asked about the fact that you knew Charles for basically a week, right?
Correct.
Did he make an impression on you?
Charles was a large personality. It would be hard not to be impressed by his wit and just gregarious, big personality with his Southern accent.
You were asked a lot on cross about you dating a married man.
Correct.
What was your impression of where this relationship was between Charles and Lori Vallow when you and Charles started talking?
Well, I knew that they had separated and that they had reconciled, and I knew he had filed and then he had recanted that. But he also had met with an attorney to begin the process again and was very emphatic that he was done with all the craziness.
And was that last time something that you understood to be very recent?
Prior to us meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
When he's talking to you, he's telling you about, you said, sort of the whole year of 2019, correct? But this last understanding that you had of him now going back to a divorce lawyer, was that something you understood to be very recent in time to that July 10th when you're meeting?
Correct.
Okay. And did you understand him to have even met with an attorney?
I believe he told me that, yes.
So that was where you were at.
Yes.
And that's what you understood Charles to be at.
Yes, and I will say, after having dinner with him, I did tell him that no one would want to be serious with him until he was further along in accomplishing that divorce that he was in the process of, including myself.
So even though you knew he was just barely starting now, did you still want to meet with him again?
Yeah, I wouldn't have entertained a serious relationship, but he was fun, and yeah, I would have met with him again.
All right. I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Are there any questions for this witness from the jury? I see at least one question coming down. I think we have our white noise.
The jury asked questions?
Yeah,
Yep.
it's only a few states do that, but I think this is good. I wish I could know what the jury question is. I'm gonna scour the socials to try to find out, because we don't get to hear their voice. And I understand why, but I still want to know. I want to know what the jury question would be. The jury has a question and they're not saying what it is. Oh, yeah. You know, because everybody's doing their coverage. They don't want to put it out there because they want you to go watch their videos. Yeah. I think it was pretty risky for Lori Vallow to ask why you would date a married man when she was having an affair. Hmm. Oh, God. The socials are really going in on Lori. So far, I'm not finding what the question is. Oh. I think it's interesting that Rachel Smith from the first trial in Idaho, the prosecutor, she was special prosecutor at it. She's been doing a lot of interviews. I don't know. We will see. I'm going to continue till 6 o'clock or break somewhere around there at a witness, because I want to see what this was about. I want to know who the next witness is. I really do. Yeah, hopefully we will hear what the question is. I'm sure we will find out later, and I'll be able to add it in commentary when I do the rest of the evening later. Teresa, that would be nice if they did. Let me just put this. This is a good question. Like, why don't they just give the question to the judge to read so we can hear the question? It would be important for the case. Everybody else in there can hear it. And they see the jury. You know what I mean? Like, but they don't want the jury to be identified. Then. The feed is very quiet because they're not talking shill in the courtroom at all. It's only me. It's not the feed. It's not anything. There was nobody. I was quiet in between too while I was looking on the socials for questions. So if it was silent, that's the reason. There's nothing wrong with the feed that I can tell. Unless you're talking about prior. Yeah. Maybe the court feed was low, but it's not now, like that I can tell. Hold on a second. I'll bring it down and bring it back up and just double check everything. Maybe they'll fix it for when they come back. Hopefully. We shall see. As long as the volume on the speakers of the... Oh, okay. Well, it's at full right now. Like I have it. I just made sure it was full. There you go, Grace. Thank you. Even when I revamped, it went back down to low. Okay, that should be better. Sorry, guys. I wonder if I should edit the video then if it's going to be very low for previously. Were you guys able to hear the questioning? I mean, you were talking back and forth with me. You must have heard the questioning. Hopefully it was loud enough that you could hear the questions that were being asked. Because it had been that. Yeah? Okay, thank you, Teresa. Because that would be quite the project. I got quite a few projects today. There's also the Kohlberger hearing that I've got to get out. Yeah, you would have to turn it up. Hopefully others will do that, but turn it down now because I did actually turn the whole feed up to max. So anybody coming in, if it was low before, check your volume.
Express to you verbally any indications of stress?
Okay.
Definitely, he was very worried that.
Why am I not hearing
I
him?
think we'll just keep it with a yes/no answer for this question. Does the defense have follow-up based on that juror question?
Can somebody type out the question for me? It was very low for me.
Does the defendant have follow-up based on that juror question?
Oh, no, Your Honor.
All right, state.
No.
All right, you can step down. Thank you.
Thank you.
State can call its next
Has
witness.
he ever expressed feelings of stress? Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Rocky Couch. All right. I wonder who our next witness would be. I can stay for another 30. Thank you, She'll says she'll write it down when she hears it. Has he ever stressed to you verbally only any indications of stress? Ah, thank you, Teresa. Okay. And let's see who our next witness is going to be. I hope it's a quick one so I don't get like stressed myself having to cut the stream and come back later. We're going to do a full day tomorrow. And I do believe that he's going to actually do motions on Friday along with hearings. So we're definitely doing a full day for that. It was along the same lines there, Couch. I think you both got it. I'm confident that it was about him feeling stress and whether he expressed it. It does sound like a good question from the jury. What is he doing? Cameraman. Okay. We are bringing another witness, are we not? Yeah. Oh boy. Uh-oh. Okay. It does appear that the next witness is going to be Christina Atwood. Okay. Let's see. I'm just looking at the socials. The feed is quiet.
All right,
Here
members
we
of the
are.
jury, we're going to take a little bit of an earlier recess than our normal afternoon recess at this time. Please remember the admonition.
That is unfortunate. Okay, that's a problem because I'm going to need to end the stream because by the time they take their 15-minute break, I don't think we're going to have enough time to actually get into this next witness, which is going to be, from what I'm seeing, it's going to be Christina Atwood, who is the friend of Lori Vallow, and I don't want to be stressed to cut it off for the cross-examination. So I will be fully prepared to discuss it all with you when we come in. Tomorrow, I will come on at 1:30 instead of 2 o'clock, giving us 30 minutes to discuss the last part of the hearing in detail in everything we come. There will be a video up before I go to sleep tonight so that you can catch up in the morning if you choose to, if you don't choose to watch this on another feed. But yeah, I think that that's going to be, I'm going to have to call it, unfortunately, because the timing is just not going to work. And I am really looking forward to tonight to doing the Luigi Mangione and Rex Harriman. There's been some movement there. I just want to refresh everyone. It will be my last true crime and legal update for the next week or two. I will be keeping everybody appraised on what's going on in the other cases on my community tab. Feel free to hit videos. I will be posting hearings. Okay, and feel free to hit the back of my videos with comments or contact me in any way to ask questions. I definitely want to keep you informed. If you're in my Discord, if you're a member of the Patreon or the Discord or one of my mods, you all know that the information gets posted there on a regular basis. We are still working on all the other cases. But for now, I want to do this update. I do believe that Jay from True Serial is going to join me, and it's very nice to have him back. And it should be interesting. And that's going to go off in an hour and a half. It's 7 o'clock. So if you can join us then, great. If not, I doubt that this hearing will be over by then. But we will definitely be continuing with the rest of this hearing and put up a video on it later. Don't forget to check out the video if you didn't already of last night's post-trial little talk with Lori that the judge and prosecution had. He did try to tell her about that, adding, verbiage to her questions that were kind of borderline testifying, and she needed to stop that, although she did still do it today a little bit, and then apologized and said she wouldn't do it anymore. We shall see if she can keep her word. Somehow, I doubt it. But on that, I'm gonna end. we're gonna call it. We're gonna definitely call it. We will see everybody later tonight, hopefully. If not, tomorrow morning. On that, have a good night. You should start the Hitchhikers, Jasper. That series is very close to my heart. We're on book 3. There's a playlist for each book. It's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying the 3rd book because we're doing it a little bit different, and I'd love to hear your opinion. Discord is for YouTube members and also for Patreon members. It is a perk of membership because I don't do private videos and all, Maggie. Welcome to membership, Jasper. There'll be a community tab with the link tonight so you can join into the Discord. As a matter of fact, I'll work on that later this afternoon to make sure that those members who are not already in the Discord that would like to join will have access. Yes, Maggie, it's one of the things I had to decide on how to give perks out to membership because I don't do a lot of extra video. I'm not really good at video or anything like that. So, yep, but there is a lot of information there. Although I'm pretty open with sharing the information when I do my true crime legal updates, in posting on my community tab. So, okay, on that, I will see you hopefully later on tonight, if not tomorrow morning. Have a great evening.